Good morning. Welcome everyone to our second Seidman Alumni Breakfast. Today's breakfast is sponsored by Ambassador Secchia and his wife Joan. We appreciate that. Thank you. A few things that I would like to take care of first. Any veterans that are in the room, could you just stand for just a second? Or Pete, wave your hand. We'd like to thank you for your service to our country. We have the ability to have these sorts of breakfasts and these sorts of institutions because of your service, and we appreciate that. It's a beautiful fall morning, and we're ready to roll. Today we have our special guest speaker, DeVos. I'm Bill Smith. I'm owner of CompuCraft Technology Services and president of the Seidman Alumni Association, and we are the group that pulls these and manages these together. Our next Secchia breakfast will be in February. It'll be Dick Muser from Grand Hotel, so that should be a really good one, too. Busser, thank you. With a last name like Smith, I have a difficult time with it. Brown, Jones. It would be a good time for us to silence our cell phones, little buttons, make sure that we're set there. I want to walk back just a second. Time flies. The Seidman College of Business Alumni Association first began doing these breakfasts in 1994. We began at the Grand Valley Eberhard facility over on the river, and interestingly, our first speaker was Bill Seidman. And Bill was speaking September 23rd, 1994, and he spoke on the topic of consultant to the government reflecting on the past. And it was a great start to a long running, so we're just moving into our 19th year. Next year will be our 20th year. What is really special is about 7 years ago, Ambassador Secchia and Joan stepped up to the plate and helped us with these breakfasts. And so they sponsor 2 breakfasts a year. So I want to start this year with a special thanks to the Secchias for making this possible and allowing us to continue this series. And in January we'll have 2 more, plus the Secchia in February, and then we have another one in March. So this is a program that is growing and growing and growing, and we appreciate your support to make that happen. So now I'd like to invite President Haas, who's here with us today, to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Good morning, everyone. It is a glorious day, and again, Ambassador Ms. Secchia, thank you for the opportunities we have together, bringing people from our community, those from the university as well, and welcome to the L. William Seidman Center. A dream come true for many, including Bill Seidman, who remember when I had breakfast during my first month or so on the job with Mary Beth Wardrop, and at that point in time he said, you know, Tom, I told Don Lubbers and I told Mark Murray, and I'm going to tell you, we need a building for the college because it will raise the reputation of the entire university. And indeed, that is what's happening as well. So really, it's great to see you. And wow, I think we have a full house. David, I think we need to build something bigger. But it is indeed a great morning to gather together here in this place. And my opportunity is one to introduce our guest speaker, Dick DeVos. Dick is the leader of WindQuest. That's my New York coming out. I told Bill Smith that comes out. WindQuest, and but more importantly, Dick represents the business leaders here in West Michigan in many regards, because with his leadership, for instance, with his activity around bringing Southwest, and before that Airtran, here to our great city and West Michigan. To work with other activities, in a way, maybe in front of the scene and behind the scene, mostly behind the scene, because he's able to provide leadership, because the motivation that Dick has is to create an environment here in West Michigan that people want to be part of, whether you are working here, living here, playing here, learning here, you want to be part of this community. And with his leadership, he is creating that atmosphere, that environment that is second to none. And so pleased that we have people like Dick DeVos who have provided leadership. And many years ago, too, he was also on our Board of Trustees here at University, where, again, he provided that leadership to help create the university as we see today. We've had many members of our Board of Trustees who had that same vision as Bill Siebman had early on, to help shape and create the talent and retain that talent right here in West Michigan. So I'm pleased to introduce you on this great November morning, our good friend, Dick DeVos.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for coming out on a chilly West Michigan morning, but a beautiful day. It could be worse. We could be living in the southwest corner of Michigan where there's 4 inches of snow on the ground, and we've got this beautiful day. They said to me, Dick, be careful when you get up here. There's too much sun coming in the windows. My opinion in West Michigan is there's never too much sun, all right? So let's just be clear about it. I'm thrilled to be here and very much honored that you would take your valuable time to stop by on an early morning. It's a great crowd, very interesting group. I see friends, I see business people, I see students, and so it's a great group. And again, how West Michigan comes together in really interesting ways. So I'm here largely because you never say no to Peter Secchia. And so that explains it. Explains what's up and with me, and I am honored to be presenting at a series that Peter and Joan have supported. They do so much for West Michigan. They have been just tremendous friends to us and to our family in ways that, in both public, but also in very personal and private ways, that they have been friends. And they typify some of the things I'm going to talk about, and that is some of the things the characteristics, the nature that makes West Michigan great. I think they embody a lot of those, except for one. I will mention humility, and I'm afraid that maybe one of the two might struggle occasionally. But Joan, you can work on it. I know you're doing really. It's just a little bit of work, a little bit of good deep breathing, good work. Also, for me to be in the Siebman Center, this is, to be honest, the first time I've been in the building. Despite our opportunity to be supportive, and I certainly applaud what's been built here and what's going on here and the work, and talking with Tom about the various programs that are happening in this building and this great university. It's a jewel in West Michigan's crown. To be sure, the entire university, this building in particular. Just two things that for me are quite personal about it. One is that as I walked in, I just had a moment of reflection. But the promenade out there, if you noticed, is actually named after Ed Prince, who's my father-in-law, now deceased, has been gone for many years. But he was an extraordinary leader, and I learned a tremendous amount from him. And so I just had I was kind of surprised by it, because I'd forgotten that it was there. And I saw it and came up and just had a moment of reflection and appreciation of him and his life and his influence on many in Holland, the community where he grew up and made a huge impact, but also on me and teaching me an awful lot. So that was a great moment. And talk about Bill Seidman was another great moment. I had the privilege of knowing Bill for a long time, for many years, having played tennis at his home. And my father and Bill Seidman were very good friends, and so I kind of got sucked along in the draft with that. There's a lot of things that have been said about Bill Seidman. You've probably heard most of them, but I'm here maybe the first to report to you that my fondest recollections of Bill Seidman relate to beach football. Bill was a real competitor at beach football, and I was a bit younger than he at the time, but I can tell you I didn't come close to him in terms of determination in beach football, and we used to different places in the world where our paths would cross. That was one of his favorite things to do, and I sure enjoyed it as well. So a guy that knew about business, was a visionary to be sure, but also that loved life and loved to have fun and just loved to go for it. So when I think of Bill Seidman, I think about beach football. Now, I hope I'm not destroying any imagery that any of you may have about Bill, but I have enormous respect, and I think this is a great tribute to him. So I was asked some time ago, I said, well, come up with a subject of what do you want to talk about? What's something that you'd like to talk about? And some of you know that I had the privilege recently of talking a little bit about airlines and air travel, and I'm not going to do that unless you want to. We'll have a few minutes afterwards to talk about some of that if that's of interest to you. But it's a subject that I pondered about and wondered about, and said, because I get the question a lot. Maybe you don't get the same question, but I get it a lot. People say, what's going on in West Michigan? What are you guys up to over there? What's in the water? What makes West Michigan such seemingly a really interesting and dynamic place? And certainly within the state of Michigan, comparatively, West Michigan and Grand Rapids has kind of exploded on the scene. If I go back, and I'm sure Ambassador Secchia, who's been involved, and so many others in the room who've been involved in statewide activities, remember back 25 years ago when people in Detroit weren't even exactly sure where West Michigan was or Grand Rapids was, or frankly how to get there. And that was sort of we were an afterthought. I would dare say that in 2006, when I was doing a bit more traveling around the state, talking to a lot more people were increasingly aware of what was happening in West Michigan. I'd come across it in different ways. People would relate to West Michigan, that they were connecting with West Michigan or discovering West Michigan. There are two ways that I found to be really interesting. One is, as I talk to a lot of people that say, well, you're from West Michigan. I say, yep. And they say, I've got a son, daughter, cousin, niece, nephew who's going to Grand Valley, or I've got a student who is interested in going to Grand Valley. What a great school, great value, great community to be in, safe, great culture. I mean, they go down the whole list of things that made Grand Valley such a great place. And they'd play it back to me. And I'm hearing this I'm not hearing this, by the way, in Hudsonville. All right? I'm hearing this in Saginaw and Flint and Monroe County, and I'm hearing this up north. I'm hearing it all over the state. People are discovering what we have to offer here. Another way it came across to me was, I remember making one call when I was, in 2006, I was calling people, asking them for a little bit of help with a project I was working on. And so I called somebody, and it was a farm. It was actually a farm in a farm community somewhere in the middle of the state. And I introduced myself, and I said, it was Dick DeVos, and I was, asking for their support. And they said, okay, DeVos. Are you any way associated with that Helen DeVos Children's Hospital? Because if you're with them, then I can support you. Covered. We're in. Had a great experience with a young man up on Drummond Island. How many of you have been to Drummond Island? It's a small place. We're up there having dinner. Young server, 16, 17, 18 years old, pouring the water, taking care of the table. Very polite young man. And about halfway through dinner, he came and said, he had noticed the name on the reservation, apparently, that we'd made at the restaurant. He kind of slid up next to me and he said, do you mind if I ask you a question? I said, not at all. He said, do you maybe own the Helen DeVos or the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital? And I had to explain to him the concept of community ownership. And no, we don't own it, but we're somewhat familiar with it. And he said, well, tell me, I said, why do you ask? And he told me a wonderful story about how he's in this town about every year for a follow-up test because of a complicated surgery to correct a condition in his brain that he had been traveling to other places and they hadn't figured it out, and Helen DeVos Children's Hospital figured it out. And he has enormous affection for this community, and they travel from Drummond Island. They live on Drummond Island, one of 3 people in the world that live year-round on Drummond Island. They travel every year to come down for follow-up tests to here. So what is that makes West Michigan special? I thought, well, Dick, I can do something, and I'm just going to bring it down and do it in good Christian Reform style, 3 points. Yeah? We're just going to hit for the Catholics in the crowd, 4 points. Whatever you... But either way, but we're going to distill this baby down. We're going to distill this baby down to just a few points and figure out what is it that makes West Michigan special. And I failed. So this is going to be kind of this isn't your great speech. This is more a conversation, maybe a reflection of what it is that makes this community, West Michigan, special. Because I started making a list. And I realized that there were too many things that were unique and interesting that I couldn't combine or distill or eliminate. So maybe if you'll just bear with me my reflection, and then if we have a few minutes afterwards, maybe if you want to add to my list, please do, because I'd appreciate it. So what is it that makes us special? So I start off, in my family, I start off with saying, well, part of what makes this community special is entrepreneurship. We're here in a business building. For me and my family, we've been blessed by entrepreneurship. But I think that's a characteristic of this community. There's a nature of entrepreneurship in this community, of figuring out that something needs to be done better and then figuring out how to do it better. My father-in-law, Ed Prince, maybe most of you know the story, some don't. But he was driving in the car, and my mother-in-law was trying to put on some makeup or lipstick, and pulled down the visor and this little crappy mirror that used to be on the visor, that you couldn't see anything. And he said, well, it has to be a better way. And he did, came up with an idea and patented the lighted sun visor and held the patent for many, many years for the lighted sun visor. And you think about today, you think, well, people today, how many cars come without the lighted sun visor? It's quite the other way around. Something that needed to be done. Was it huge? No. Did it make people's life better? Absolutely. Did it improve things? Absolutely. It improved things in my house when we're running a little bit late. It makes my wife a lot happier, and that makes me happy. Entrepreneurship. past. Look at all the great companies and organizations that were founded in this community, that were started in this community, that remain in this community, that are still part of the fabric of this community, that went and figured out new and better ways to do things. I think entrepreneurship has really characterized us, and I hope that it will continue to characterize us in the future. That's why I'm so excited about this building and about the programs here, both the family business programming that Grand Valley does, but also the programming on entrepreneurship, to teach and train and cultivate what's going on. I'm so proud of our son Rick for doing the Start Garden, for creating and fueling a culture of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, I think, is central to us. Philanthropy. This is with a capital P. Peter, it's not. We talked earlier, you don't like it when it's in little numbers or little letters. This is big P philanthropy. Maybe you could say it generosity. There's a generosity of spirit around this community, a willingness to give. A lot of places, maybe you've been, I know I've been, a lot of places you go, you ask a question and the first answer is always no, and you have to work to yes. West Michigan, the first answer is normally yes. Now, it may be yes, but I can only do this much. Yes, I really can't afford to give you a lot of money, but what can I do to help with what I can give? My time, my connections. Yes, to giving. My father said, and Peter has oftentimes repeated it, that in some communities, the way you get into the community is the country club you belong to. In this community, the way you get into this community is by giving and participating and joining into what we do together. It's generosity that is the key to entry into this community, not writing the right check to the right country club and hanging out with the right people. Geography. What a beautiful day. And so February and March are a little lacking, all right? But think about how the proximity, the river. I look at the geography here, the lake shore, for those of us that love the water. This is an extraordinary story that we have access to these things and the geography of this place. Northern Michigan. Northern Michigan is everything the East Coast is without the crowds and the attitude. It's the geography of this place in Michigan offers enormous possibilities. Some of you may know I'm into things that fly, and I fly a helicopter. And the thing about flying a helicopter, and by the way, people say, well, how high do you fly? As low as possible. I do that just to antagonize you. No, that's not true. Just want to be clear that when a helicopter goes really low over your head, it's Aeromed. All right? It's Aeromed. It's not me. I don't fly that low. I'm just joking. I'm joking about it. No, but I fly typically I fly between 500 and 700 feet. At 500 to 700 feet, the helicopter I fly, you won't even be able to hear it probably. Frankly, if you're inside your house, you'll never hear it. And but what you see at that, you see the topography. You see the streams. You see the lakes. You see the trees. You see the state and the proximity of things in all new ways. It's a fantastic way to see the geography of this place. I think West Michigan's special because of our geography. Our work ethic. We tend to, look how many people are here. I get up in the morning, I have kind of weird schedules sometimes, but I get up at different times or I'm late coming in, but there's people who are going to work, there's people who are making things happen. There's a work ethic, and it's not just showing up, but it's an attitude toward work, that work is a good thing. That work is something that we're called to do, that work is productive, that work is service. It's a way that we do serve others. It's a way that we participate. So it seems to me that the work ethic here, that we bring joy to our work, we find meaning in our work, was something important. Private companies. We have private companies, and then we've got a lot of public companies that act a lot like private companies in all the right ways. who have maybe for many of our public companies today that are public in structure, but the majority shareholders still live within our community. I think that's an enormous gift to our community, economically speaking, that we have companies who continue to invest in our community, whose shareholders and management teams all live in this community. Having a manufacturing plant in your community is one thing. Having a headquarters in your community is a massive difference. It's a massive difference in the way that that company or that organization views its connection and its commitment and its engagement with the community. And so we have private companies that have remained private. We have private companies that have become public companies that still act a lot, as I say, like private companies. And I applaud them. They're keeping a long-term focus. They're keeping a community connection. They're maintaining their commitments to their community. They're saying to their shareholders, this is who we are as a company. This is what we do. And if you don't like that, you probably ought to go invest somewhere else, because we think that connection to this community is what helps to fuel our success as a business. I think that's a real gift to our communities. What do other people say about us? I hear all the time, cleanliness. I hear just a clean city, safe, low cost of living, family friendly. I find this, when I've been out recruiting, and we're constantly out recruiting to bring talent into our community that we need, that has unique skills or specialized skills, that particular characteristic is really, really important. I found that our hit rate, our success rate, the ability to attract and retain people who are high-performance professionals, who really, really, really want to be on the fast track, want to be on the cutting edge, want to do things that are challenging and interesting, possibly on an international scale, global scale, which many of our businesses today offer careers that connect you globally. Because in today's world, right, you don't have to live in a big city to connect globally every day with technology, et cetera. I used to do that. I did that for a lot of years from Ada, Michigan, and connected globally. So, but the ability to connect globally with a career track that's meaningful and exciting and dynamic, and be able to be within 10 minutes drive at your son or daughter's soccer game, that's pretty unusual. That's pretty remarkable. And the fact that our employers understand that and encourage it, for people who are interested in that career and who have also a commitment to a family life, that makes this town a little special. That we found a way somehow to balance those characteristics. Conservative. Some would, there's some, all the list I'm saying, some of you are maybe putting it in the minus column, not the plus column, all right? So there's maybe you disagree, or that may be cut both ways, but I would say conservative in all the right sense. Conservative in the fact that things are run with a certain amount of restraint and discipline, that our financial circumstance in this community tends to be one that's solid, and therefore our institutions are the beneficiaries of that. We're all the beneficiaries of sound financial stewardship on behalf of governmental units, their continued attention and effort toward doing things well. Not having to be the first to do something all the time, not having to be on the cutting edge, not having to try the newest fad, but waiting to make sure that does it really make sense for us? Maybe that's good somewhere else. Does it make sense for us? We're a little bit of Missouri, show me. A little bit of that characteristic. I think that's kind of a good thing. And yet what I find fascinating is that the downside of conservative, which always is unwilling to try new things, stuck in the past, unwilling to engage in different conversation, the downsides of conservatism don't seem to be present in West Michigan. Isn't it fascinating to you, as it's fascinating to me, that in this conservative, religious, traditional, family-oriented community, ArtPrize comes along and is embraced, the most dramatic, dynamic, open format art event in the country, in the world. So I think, to me, there's a wonderful paradox, and yet maybe not totally a paradox. But here's this open framework, this really creative, innovative idea that some members of the art community are still convinced is somehow an attempt by the nefarious DeVos family to undermine the art community in some way. They just haven't figured out yet what we're up to, but they're convinced that we're up to no good. So whatever. Enough about conspiracy theories. I mean, ArtPrize, I mean, it's extraordinary to me what's happened. It's extraordinary to me how that thing was embraced by the community. When that was announced in the spring of a year, and then rolled out, and then by fall, ArtPrize emerged on the street, and tens of thousands of people show up and got engaged. And you all know the story of what's happened. It's been stunning, frankly, to us. What's happened with ArtPrize. But is there a connection back to what others said? Is it totally surprising? It's not totally surprising to me when you look at the context of entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is creativity. What do we celebrate with ArtPrize? Creativity. Entrepreneurship is creativity applied in the economic context. So maybe it isn't too far off of our DNA. As I look around and I watch what's happening on the streets of Grand Rapids during ArtPrize, and I see the stroller count, right? And I see the multi-generations. I see grandparents and parents and children walking, talking, engaging, discussing. What do I like? What do I think? What's my opinion? What's good? What's bad? Engaging in a conversation as families should. Maybe we don't do as much as we ought. And ArtPrize has helped fuel that family connection. Maybe it's a surprise. Maybe it's not a surprise. But I think it's a great, unique characteristic. We've got Laugh Fest coming up, just announcing this morning. That's another wonderful community activity. What else makes our community great? I think we have a developing urban scene. We're seeing a downtown that's developed enormously, and thanks to, again, the leadership of so many. In particular, I would just note David Fry and the work that he and his family and others have done to really remain dedicated and focused and committed to the downtown of our community, to develop an urban center at a time when more and more Americans, more and more of our younger generation desire that lifestyle as an alternative. We're able to offer that as a community and with an exciting and dynamic city core. So many cities of our size lost their core, lost their center years ago and never got it back. It was too far gone. We got ours back, and not only do we have it back, but I don't know about you, but I get comments all the time of, wow, what a dynamic city, traffic, people, architecture, the way that we've blended old and new, all of that. When we did the recruitment for AirTran, to try to get the AirTran folks to consider Grand Rapids, we made doggone sure that they came downtown. I didn't want them to just see the airport. To understand us, you also need to see our city. You need to see the community. You need to see the vitality. You need to see what's going on in town. And they saw that, and maybe like you, I get comments all the time about what a surprise it was. College students in West Michigan. We have more college students in the Grand Rapids, West Michigan area than Ann Arbor does. You know that? More full-time college students than Ann Arbor does. Now, what does that mean? Well, yeah, sure, it means you've got a bunch of kids running around downtown, and that's good. Or in Allendale, that's good. Tom thinks that's really good. But what does it mean to our community? On a bigger picture, that means that we are attracting, as I spoke earlier about Grand Valley, and how they're attracting. And I think about the private schools that we have, the often religious-based schools, but you got Cornerstone, and you got Calvin out there, you've got Aquinas. You've got those schools that are also attracting people and students from, frankly, outside of the state. Grand Valley doing more and more of that as it becomes more and more attractive from outside of the state, bringing new people to our community. And they fall in love. They fall in love with our community, or they fall in love with somebody they met in our community. Either way, they stick. So we have this natural magnetic attraction going on with these schools that are bringing in these young people who are bringing their creative energies, their dynamism into our community on a regular basis. And because we're offering them a place that's interesting and has the dynamics we're talking about, they're staying in our community, adding to our own creativity and dynamism, and we're seeing the virtuous cycle continue. So young people, the attraction of our colleges and universities is something really special for West Michigan. An attitude here, an attitude of let's do it. Why not? We have that sort of a spirit. Again, it's back to the entrepreneurial thing, but we extend that entrepreneurial thing into, I think what David and I have been talking together, we kind of refer to as social entrepreneurship on projects and programs and things that are not for personal gain, but are for the benefit of the community. Doing something interesting, innovative, that's social entrepreneurship. ArtPrize is a good example. A lot of the projects that David and I were involved with projects where we've been called crazy more than once for different things that we've done. And so, well, you can't, some people would say, you can't do that. When we proposed tearing down the police station and the Hall of Justice, both of which, by the way, were going to fall down within a few years on their own anyway. That you can't do that. And we said, well, why not? There's a better use for this. It's ended up being called DeVos Place. It's now in the paper if you saw it. I mean, an economic. We said this will have an economic engine for our community. Well, documented now, $90 million a year on average of economic impact to our community as a consequence of what we did, because we said, we can find a better place for the Hall of Justice in the police department and find a way to expand our convention capability. We can do that. So there's a can-do attitude in this community, and it's how many times have we seen that can-do attitude? Let's see. There's a faith perspective. Now, again, some of you will consider that, some could consider this to be a positive or negative. As someone myself who comes from and embraces the Christian faith and tradition, I would just suggest to you that part of the culture of this community, whether you embrace my faith view or not, there's been influenced, I believe, positively by the faith communities in West Michigan in three ways. One is that there's a sense here of a higher calling. There's a sense in West Michigan that we have a high standard that's expected of us. Not just whether we get caught, but how we should live to a higher standard of accountability. That there's purpose in life. I think faith traditions, almost all faith traditions will speak to the fact that there's purpose in life, but I think it's become a part of our DNA that our lives have purpose, that we're not just accidents, and that our life isn't just sort of a series of accidents, but that our life has a purpose, that our life has meaning and significance, and therefore we should be engaging with it, not just enduring it. And I'd say the third thing is that our faith perspective is that embodies this community is that every person in our community has value. If you embrace the Christian tradition, as I do, you then have to embrace the fact that there's a creator and that we all share the same architect. And that means that it's pretty hard to diss somebody else who had the same designer. And so you end up with a view that we stand shoulder to shoulder. And it's not that somehow there's great distinctions, they're just some of us that have different skills and different contributions and different roles and different responsibilities. And it speaks to how we care about people in this community. When I was at Mel Trotter a few years ago, and I believe this is still the case today, nobody in this community has to sleep on the street at night. There is a bed if you want it. For everybody. There is a bed. There's a capacity in the community. Not all want to take advantage of it, not all desire it, Not all are willing to live within the restraints or constrictions that come from. But the community has said, we value people enough that we're going to make sure that if you need help, we will be there. I think of the enormous number of social service agencies in this town that are an expression of that, from both the faith community and the non, and from just our community in general, that value people and say, you know what, maybe you've had a tough time. How can we pick you up? How can we help you out? How can we get you back on your feet so that you're ready to become and return to being a full member of our community? So I think the influence of our faith community, we're a community that under-promises and over-delivers. I love low expectations. I think we're the beneficiary of low expectations in this town. People come here expecting a sleepy little, backwater community. And when they find out what we got going here, it's always great. So it's not that we're always score a 10, but when you're expecting a 3, we look pretty good. I noted company and employee relationships. There's acrimony in so many communities. There's economic division in so many communities. There's constant tension in so many communities. I would suggest to you we see that, probably in spades in southeast Michigan and have over the years. This sort of acrimony that exists, distrust that exists about what are you trying to do to me and who's getting what and how's this all working out. And we have, and then work disruption that happens as a consequence and division that happens in our community as a consequence. I don't see that in our town. I see employers and managers who genuinely care. Back to the point about faith and back to the point about the value of each individual. They do that. They take that for real, and they deal with folks on a one-to-one basis, trying to help them meet those needs. Back to the family commitment. How do we figure out how we can work together in a productive way as opposed to an acrimonious way? I think it's a huge gift and uniqueness in our community. Humility. We aren't very good at bragging. Donald Trump would struggle in Grand Rapids. Maybe that cuts another way. We don't tell our story very well. But it also means that the leaders of our community don't stand up and aren't busy trying to figure out how to make it work for them. But I see servant leadership. Some of us in the Christian community know what I'm talking about with servant leadership. We see that expressed through the community leaders in our town, who aren't busy trying to accumulate for themselves fame or recognition, but who truly do it sometimes behind the scenes in ways that we never even realize make a difference in our community and don't ask for anything except that the community is a better place. My wife Betsy was misquoted in a magazine called Mother Jones some years ago. Mother Jones is a left of center, and that's being polite, left of center publication. And they've not had a sort of a positive view of what Betsy or I or our family has tried to do historically. And they asked Betsy a question and said, well, your family gives all this money to politicians. What do you want? You must want something. And she said, and she answered, and they actually misquoted her. And I'll explain why. She answered, she said, yes, we want something. Of course we do. We want good government. That's all we want. What did Mother Jones quote, of course? They quoted, with a question, what do you want? Do you want something? Answer, of course we do. They dropped the last part. Now, but that's I think reflective of West Michigan. What do we want? We just want the community to be a better place, and we celebrate that. And then I think finally I just say passionate leadership. Our leadership is humble, but our leadership is also passionate, and that's where I will circle back to Peter Secchia and Joan. I don't know of any more passionate supporters and defenders and encouragers of West Michigan than what they are and have been throughout their life. The passion that they've expressed that for this community and for the people of this community, their commitment to it with their time, their treasure, their good name, everything. Passionate leadership who care deeply about what's going on in our community. Maybe you've got more. That's where my list ended. I don't know what else. I'm sure there's a lot more to be said. Maybe you share my view that there was no way to distill it down to just 3 or 4 points. I'm not smart enough, but I appreciate your walking down the musings of a guy who grew up in Grand Rapids, who appreciates what this community has to offer, and truly believes in my heart, to my core, that we are, through this combination of things, a very special place. And I'm just honored and pleased and proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Take a few questions.
I'll be happy to take questions, or if anybody wants to add to my list before we wrap up. Anybody wants to talk about airplanes?
I don't want to talk about airplanes. Just to support some of your points, is I come from Chicago and go back there often, and people always want to say, well, wouldn't you love to live in Chicago? And no, I'm trying to explain why. I think one point that you didn't elaborate on enough was how the business leaders collaborate so much together on all the projects. It's not just the idea of the project, but the widespread. And in Chicago, you have no idea who the business leaders really are. And I think that's what makes us even more special. Is it doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat, they're coming together for a common and a purpose to improve the community. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great observation. Business community does, the leadership community does come together, and that reminded me of another point too that I made a note of as well, is that we have there's sort of a sense of unity that developed in this community. And back in 2006 again, when I was traveling a lot in Southeast Michigan, people in Southeast would say, you know, what's wrong with you people over there? Because you like always agree and you're always so nice to each other. Which is a commentary on the culture of Southeast Michigan just all by itself for asking the question, all right? How come you guys always agree? I said, so you think we all get together, the business leaders all get together like every Wednesday and figure, okay, this is what we're going to do together next week. You think everybody agrees? I said, you gotta be kidding me. I said, but we at least have the responsibility to disagree privately and agree publicly. And I think there's a civility around that is characteristic of the community, that the leadership of our town isn't all of one mind, thankfully not. I think there's an increasing amount, and I celebrate that increasing amount of diversity that we see in our community, but we share those disagreements privately, and we don't try to get into great public debates that divide us. And until we're prepared to be able to all move together as a community, we tend not to move. Back to that little conservative thing, because because we try to have that kind of cooperation that you speak of. Thank you for raising that point. Yeah, please.
Yeah, my name is David Manowski.
I did.
Back in 2004, I moved to a job in Southern California, which is a great place weather-wise, especially this time of year. And I just moved back about a year and a half ago. But every day in California, I always said to my friends, I'd rather be back in Michigan, which they thought was crazy. Well, when 2008 hit, the economy took a dip. One thing I would notice when I would come back and visit wintertime, summertime, was why is it in the Southwest the cranes have been taken down, buildings in the middle of construction have stopped. I come to Grand Rapids, they're building new sidewalks downtown. Cranes are everywhere. Grand Valley is growing. And I said, this is an amazing town. I've always loved it, and I'm glad to be back. And but that showed me that in the whole time I'm traveling, and everywhere in the country, and even when I was in Korea, things that stopped everywhere else, it was booming here, and I just thought, there's something going on here.
Good. Welcome back. Thanks for that. But I think that's back to a little bit of that conservative thing, right? We tended not to participate in the bubbles quite the same way. Yeah.
Why is there not a
Oh, well, we've talked about that on the street, haven't we? That's a good question. I don't know, but it's a great question. It's a great question. You keep advocating. Keep advocating. Tom?
A couple of other words and a question as well. Alignment of the values, you mentioned that in a way. Adaptation, without a doubt. You mentioned college students, but also we have a K through 12 system too, whether it be here in Grand Rapids or across West Michigan. How do you see the alignment and what you were describing with regards to K through 12?
I didn't go to another list here that I had, which is my to-do list. So there's still some things we can do better. And I say that in front of my good friend J.C. Huizinga, who I think has made an enormous contribution to education in this community and in this state and deserves tremendous amount of credit for what he's doing and has done to stir up a stultified K-12 system in our state and in our nation. I believe that is an area that's frankly was first on my to-do list, is that we still have work to do, I believe, in K-12 education. And that's, I'm not just going to pick on any one particular system or group. I do believe as a nation that we are very deficient in what we are offering in too many of our urban areas. We're very deficient defining people's schools by their zip codes. And that we are far too sanguine about the performance of our peripheral schools that we think are doing well and can and should be doing much, much better. I think education is an area where this community has an opportunity to really demonstrate leadership, and I hope we do. I believe we have work to be done in that area, and I commend Grand Valley for your leadership, certainly in encouraging the one branch called the charter school movement that is available to us in Michigan, where there is true innovation and dynamic happening in that area. But more, there's much more to be done, I believe. The rest of my to-do list, if you're curious, would be that we need to better understand increasing diversity. Diversity has not been as much a part of our history, but it's going to be a part of our future. We need to, as a community, make sure that we understand how to manage and deal with and embrace that diversity within the context of our community and who we are. Managing growth, we're in a huge growth cycle. How do we keep those things that are critical to us while allowing for change in those areas that are not as critical? To me, the definition of leadership is always figuring out what's core to your value system and being willing to change the rest. But what's core to us as a community and what's not, what can't we really kind of change or don't want to because it's really working for us, and what needs to change as we manage growth. And then also with downtown development, that we still have work to do, I think, to continue to enforce our center city. I do believe in context of urban development that energy moves out, and that it's hard to make energy move in from a city, so that you can only grow your city if you can grow it outward from a strong core. And that's why we need to continue to stay focused on making sure that core is strong, and the energy from that will continue to move out into our near-in neighborhoods, where I believe, frankly, education right now is maybe the biggest blocker to our economic renewal of our near-in neighborhoods in our community, and for families' abilities to come, buy a home, become stabilized in these near-in neighborhoods, and be able to remain with a view that they can raise their children there and that their children will have a great educational opportunity available to them living there without having to send them to somewhere else outside of their community, send them to a private school system or some other place.
Thank you for the work that your families have given and the generosity you have, first and foremost. Quickly, from your point of view, because you're at the 35,000-foot look, what initiatives are you excited about to make this community stickier so that people come and they stay, and the students that you talk about, that they will remain and not go to other communities?
I generally try to fly at 41,000 to 45,000.
Well, now, the 500 to 700.
Okay. I think I do believe that the last comment about the downtown development in terms of young people, that we need to create a vibrant, dynamic urban living opportunity and experience. The near-in neighborhoods, I think, play into that very much for those that want to have a home but still want to be connected to close proximity to the urban areas. We see a preponderance of people wanting to live in the city. I think those are real issues that we have to deal with, and I do believe the education issue is critical to doing that. So I'm excited about what's happening. I applaud the leadership and our superintendent at the Grand Rapids Public Schools. I think she's doing some enormously good things, but there's still lots and lots and lots of opportunity there. I'm excited, frankly, about the discussion of what we're talking about doing with our river. It's an asset that has been underutilized, I think, over historically, and we've tried to connect to it architecturally, but we've not really changed the complexion of it. I think the discussion about doing something there, I find that tremendously interesting and exciting, and would add another element of vitality and dynamism to our community. Those would probably be the two things. I mean, but to me, it's a lot of it is focused in the city and around the education space. And I'm out of time. My apologies, but thanks so much for the opportunity to be here, and thanks for the suggestions for my list. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is John Reifel, and I'm serving as the interim dean of the Seidman College of Business. And I'd really like to thank Dick for the very insightful comments he's made about the water quality here in West Michigan. We are different, so thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Dick and his family for all the wonderful things that they do for West Michigan, for Grand Valley State University, and for the Seidman College of Business. Thank you very much. And lastly, I would like to again thank Ambassador Secchia and Joan for their sponsorship of these breakfast events. Thank you very much. And that concludes our program. We're out, a couple minutes after 9. Go for it. Have a great day.